Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Time Out with Derek and Joe. For Joe Azalina, I am Derek Gano. Thank you, as always, for taking time out of your day to spend some time with us. Joe, what do we have planned for today's quickie episode?
Yes, it is our quickie episode. And today, on January the 16th, on this beautiful day here in the winter, we will be warming it up with some hot stove talk in Major League Baseball, some trades, some free agent signings. And then we're going to go on to our top five list where we have a little more than five, but it was tough to do. And that's the shortstops, the current shortstops in Major League Baseball, where we have them ranked. So another good show, and hope our audience enjoys this one as well. So we're going to get started. One of the big things that happened, I want to say about maybe 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah, it was a while ago now.
The right-hand pitcher from the Chicago Cubs, is we believe they're selling pieces off left and right, as you know, they let Kyle Schwarber go. He'll be talked about in a little bit. Now they have a guy in Yu Darvish who's now moving to the upstart San Diego Padres, Derek. And I'm sure you can give our listeners and myself, I know they traded him for a couple players. Zach Davies is one name the Chicago Cubs got back. But on the end of the Padres, they put in a guy that throws innings, a lot of innings, and he's a veteran along with now Blake Snell.
Yeah, and along with also his personal catcher, apparently Victor Caratini is going from the Cubs to the Padres. You wonder if he has a spot. We mentioned a couple times Austin Nola, who's down there, and then a couple trades that they've gotten more catchers. But going back to the Cubs, Zach Davies, Reginald Preciado. I'm not going to get any of these names right. So Yason Santana, Owen Cassie, and Ishmael Mena. So all of those guys, I just found it somewhere. They're in the Cubs system. They're going to be ranked the number 15, 17, 18, and 20 prospects. So the Cubs got a lot of depth for hopefully in coming years, but really giving away a dominant starter who was, I believe, top 3 in the Cy Young voting this year in Yu Darvish. So Padres getting a stud back, but Joe, I mean, that puts the Padres rotation maybe now on one of the top in the league, with also getting Blake Snell. They already had Dilson Lamet. Not sure how much Mike Clevenger is going to pitch this year with his injury at the end of last year, but that is a very strong rotation moving forward.
Yeah, and Chris Paddock, I think, is another name that maybe
Chris Paddock.
Yeah, I mean, he's up and down, but he's young, and he's going to be able to fall back in that 3-4 spot now. It just makes the rotation deep, and the Padres are going to be a really interesting team out in the West.
Do we think that means the end of what's the point in keeping someone like Kyle Hendricks, who is another great starter for the Cubs? He might be gone too, you wonder?
I've had my eye on him for my Phillies. He is controlled for the next 2 to 3 years. He's a guy that goes out there and throws all speed. He's a guy that is going to be able to stabilize your rotation. He's a guy that'll fit perfect after Zach Eflin. But no, he's a guy that can fit a couple rotations. I don't want to be, again, a homer here, but I'm just saying that Kyle Hendricks and Wilson Contreras are the 2 names that you might see move before opening day. Also, Chris Bryant. Why? Why would you keep him? I mean, Atlanta needs a third baseman, right? The Washington Nationals need a third baseman. It makes sense in my head. So don't count that out either. He's been in all kinds of rumors. So
no point in going halfway. You might as well go the whole way. So you might see some more names from the Cubs going. The next move we have here, which was actually went through on my birthday, the 29th of December. The Phillies acquired Jose Alvarado from the Tampa Bay Rays, defending American League champions in what was, I believe, a 3-team trade. Joe, a nice left-handed pitcher, which are the great ones are hard to come by. Alvarado threw a 2.39 ERA in 2018. 2019 and 20 kind of struggled with some injuries, so I guess the Phillies are kind of hoping he finds his 2018 form.
And he's a hard throwing left-hander. I talked to a few people that follow the Rays, and they say he's definitely got a good arm. Highlight tapes of him look like he has an explosive fastball. The big thing is we didn't give up a lot. The Phillies gave up a young arm in Garrett Clevenger. He's going out to the Dodgers. And you said it was a 3-team deal. I forget exactly maybe how the Dodgers got involved. But I do know that Alvarado helps the Phillies bullpen, and we're still Phillies aren't done. There's another name on the list in a little bit that we'll talk about, and you got to put it together. This bullpen cost them the playoffs last year, so I hope Alvarado stays healthy. You're right. Can't be a David Robertson move again because that would kill us.
Right. Yes. Don't want that.
So we're going to move on to the San Diego Padres again. They're in the news a lot this offseason. They signed Hae-Sung Kim, who's going to be playing second base, which is really interesting. He's from Korea. The reason I say that's interesting is this simple point. They got to move Rookie of the Year candidate Jake Cronenworth out to the outfield because they want Kim to start, and they don't know. Yeah. We still don't know about the DH right now. We know it's a 162-game season. Thank God for all those purist baseball fans out there like ourselves. We're going to see a lot of baseball in the spring and summer, but we have no idea about the DH. And Cronenworth's still a good fielder, so I guess he could probably play in one of the corners. They have Myers. It's going to depend on. But what do you think about? There's not much to say about Kim. We don't know much about him. So, what will he bring?
I guess, I mean, he's known to be an above average player in Korea, which I guess translates to probably an average player here. So we'll see how he comes and plays here. But I mean, you look at the stats. I don't know how many games they played in 2020, but since 2019, he's batted .307. 393 on base percentage, 49 home runs, 62 doubles, 3 triples, and 56 stolen bases. That's a lot of numbers. So, and like you said, I guess it's good to have a lot of options because with Cronenworth going, he could play second base if he struggles. They still have Tommy Pham out there who struggles to stay healthy in left field, and then Myers in right field you mentioned. So they have a lot of options there, and Padres are definitely making moves between Snell, Kim, Darvish. They're trying to do something and make a run at those Dodgers for the NL West. Another trade here, which probably is the biggest trade of all these. There's been talks about Francisco Lindor moving. He hasn't been very happy in Cleveland, and Cleveland wanted to cut their money down anyways. So Francisco Lindor ends up going to the New York Mets, along with, and this isn't really just a throw-in either, Carlos Carrasco is also going to the Cleveland Indians as a part of a 6-player trade with the Mets. The Indians get back Ahmed Rosario, who was the starter at shortstop and then played some outfield for the Mets in the past few years. Andre Simeon, who is their top shortstop prospect. I believe he got some innings last year, though. And then prospect right-hander Josh Wolf and outfielder Isaiah Green. Joe, Lindor is really someone who can completely change the face of an offense and a defense for that matter. What does this mean for the Mets, bringing in someone like Lindor to help lead this team and hopefully get them to the playoffs as they're hoping?
Well, they just put themselves in the conversation for right up there with the Atlanta Braves. If you ask me, they're starting rotation with DeGrom, and you have a little bit of Stroman, and now you got Carrasco, as you mentioned, former Phillies prospect Carlos Carrasco. Great story, battled the leukemia, and he's doing really well apparently. But I'm telling you right now, Francisco Lindor is an absolute like top 5 player in baseball. You hear it all the time. He hits doubles. He hits for power. He's probably the Mets' Jose Reyes right now because how fast he is. And he's also going to be the better hitter than Jose Reyes was. So he's now their face of the franchise. They thought Pete Alonso would be. But I think Francisco Lindor, if they give him a 6 to 7 year deal, or God forbid, even more, he's only like 27 years old. Like, so, this is kind of like the Phillies just did with Bryce Harper. They're getting their guy. Like they knew they wanted him. They have the money, as their billionaire owner always has been saying since he's been the owner now. And you know what? I'm kind of sad that A-Rod didn't get the ownership because maybe he wouldn't have done something like this. To throw that out there. But no, Lindor's a great player, and even as being a Phils fan, I will say I'm really looking forward to watching him play 19 times. I'm not going to feel that way after we lose half of those times, but I'm definitely interested in watching him play the game. He's a hard-nosed player, so very flashy, very exciting. So not much to say, but he'll be in our no doubt our shortstop list. And
Right.
I will tell you right now, he'll be in our baseball preview come a month or two down the road here.
Yeah, I will just say real quick, Joe. It's probably between, I won't make you pick, but it's probably between the Padres and the Mets who have made the biggest splashes so far in this offseason. Obviously, the Mets made this trade bringing in a top 2-3 starter, a great shortstop, James McCann, a new catcher, Trevor May, who is a pretty good relief pitcher, bringing back Carlos Stroman. They're in talks for Brad Hand. They're really making moves, and then the ultimate smash may be coming in the next few weeks. We're not sure, but
you guys out
there. Good days probably moving forward for the Mets and the Padres, as we've talked about several players for both these teams so far.
Yeah, both teams really improving a whole lot. We're going to go to a little minor signing, but this could mean a lot for the Washington Nationals. And they got a guy in Kyle Schwarber, who I think it's a 2-year deal, if I remember right. He played for the Cubs. He was a guy we mentioned earlier. He's a corner outfielder, more of a left fielder, but he's not that fleet of foot. So he's more of the DH type. But Derek, he's still a good presence in a lineup. He can hit home runs. And with Josh Bell, this is a very formidable, and Juan Soto and Trey Turner. There's 4 guys right there.
Mm-hmm.
So this is still a lineup that could be really interesting and probably finish better than the Marlins and the Phillies. So the Nationals will be interesting. And Kyle Schwarber, I think, is a very underrated signing.
Yeah, and so what it is, I guess there's a mutual option for 2022, so they would have to both want to do it, but and it's not that much money, so you might as well go for it and see what he can do. He could earn up to $10 million, I guess. Doesn't hit for average. He's not going to hit for average. In 2019, he hit 234, but he had 38 home runs. So, and he had 94 between 2017 and 2019. So, provided you have other guys that are going to get on base, defensively, I don't know. Maybe they started talking to him before they found out that it's probably not going to be a DH in the National League, but because he's probably more of a DH now. But I'm sure any team is gonna, if you can hit, they'll find a spot for you, and that's what they're gonna do with Schwarber. Be interested to see where he fits in, like you said, with Josh Bell, Juan Soto, where he goes, probably hitting 5th or 6th. So he'll get his opportunities. So we'll see what Schwarber can do. Another one gone from the Chicago Cubs onto the Nationals. So another deal that Joe might like here, shoring up that bullpen were just a couple days ago, where the Philadelphia Phillies signed the I believe he was a closer for the Diamondbacks, and then he was traded to the Reds last year. Archie Bradley, 1-year deal, $6 million. Alvaro Bradley, I guess it's a start. You probably want more, right, Joe?
Yeah, you always want more when you had the worst bullpen in the majors and the worst bullpen historically in the baseball last year. No, listen, and we have some good young guys. I don't want to forget about them, and that will be on a show in the future again. But Archie Bradley is a really interesting personality, they say. He's a very fun guy. He's got a cool personality. But you said it, Derek. He was a D-backs closer in 11, and I think probably a good 6 years there, or 6-7 years, because he did just get traded to Cincinnati last year, I think it was. Big beard. We'll fit in with Harper with the beards. Maybe we'll have a battle of the beards. That'll be kind of funny. But you know what Archie Bradley does? He gets outs. And last year, on a Cincinnati team that wasn't that talented, I mean, they were okay. Derek, he gave up 1 earned run. Like, this could be our closer unless we sign Colomé from what was the White Sox, now free agent, or Brad Hand if we come sneak in there, maybe a Kirby Yates. I don't know. I'm just saying that right now our closer on the Philly staff to me is Archie Bradley. So $6 million can't be it.
I read somewhere, and then now that I think about it, I remember your brother Mike talking about it as well. I think the Phillies had the least amount of people to throw pitches 96 miles an hour and over. Yeah. And Archie Bradley's average fastball is about 95. So he's someone who's going to bring the heat. So something that they've lacked for a long time now. It's good to have some of those fireballers coming out of the bullpen.
Exactly. Well, Derek, we have gotten to the last couple guys, and this guy, man, he threw some big innings in the postseason, and this is now new White Sox closer Liam Hendricks. But Derek, it's not where he's going. It's how much money they gave him on a 3-year deal. $54 million. That just, I know baseball. I know these owners have the money, but like, he throws 1 inning a game, and usually they can't go back to back. So is that too much money I mean, I know he's a great pitcher, but is it too much money for a guy like this? Or what do you think about? But Chicago's also going for it. They got some key pieces again.
I don't think anyone but Mariano Rivera has been worth anything more than a few years. But 4 years, $54 million, that's a lot. That is a lot of money. But hey, he like you said, he was one of the best in baseball last year. He got some Cy Young votes too, but people don't really give Cy Young votes to relief pitchers. But I found this very interesting. The White Sox, they lacked a third starter in that, and that's why they lost. One of the reasons why they lost to the A's. They went out and traded for Lance Lynn, brought him in there. The guy who got the last out, Nomar Mazara, who blew it for them to lose, they signed Adam Eaton and brought in a guy, a veteran there.
Former White Sox, I think.
The bullpen blew up in the third game, and they signed the best closer on the market. So they filled in all the spots that cost them that series. They even took it from the team that beat them, the Oakland A's, and Liam Hendricks. So obviously he's going to be starting. You're not paying someone $54 million over 4 years to be a 7th or 8th man inning guy. So hey, we'll see if it works out. He's a firecracker, that's for sure. He showed that in the playoffs. So
wait, just so I get that right, do you say that he's going to start, or did you mean?
Did I say no? I meant closer. If I said start, I meant closer.
Okay.
But yeah, they're not paying him that money to come out in the 7th or 8th inning. So.
No.
Another move here, which just happened in the past day, actually. Corey Kluber, 1 year, not $11 million contract to the New York Yankees. He better shave off that beard because he's going to the Yankees. Joe, over, I want to say probably the 2014 to 2018-ish period, Corey Kluber is one of the best starters in the major leagues, not even just the AL, in the major league.
Right.
Amazing slider, and always kept hitters guessing. And now he's dealt with a lot of injuries over the past few years. So I guess more of a high upside, hoping for the high upside signing for the Yankees and kind of a prove it to me deal with Corey Kluber.
Well, listen, they didn't sign Tanaka yet. He's still out there. I heard he could go back to Japan. They have young kids like, I think David Garcia, these young guys. I mean, they didn't sign Hap. He's still out there. I just wonder, though, I know 11 million isn't a lot, but I just wonder if they shouldn't have gone after Jake Odorizzi here. Like, Kluber's a flyer guy. He's a guy that you think maybe a team with rotation problems. You have Garrett Cole at the top. You can fill in now. If Odorizzi, he's a pitcher that I look at and I'm like, this guy might ask for 2 to 3 years, but it'd be well worth it because you still have Cole for a long time. So you just got to keep filling in. And I don't know. I don't love the Kluber signing for New York, but I guess it makes sense. I just hope for their sake he stays healthy.
I think that's a great point. I hope they're not done, or I hope they don't think that they're done, because obviously Cole, you mentioned Cole, is one of the best in the game, but Severino coming off an injury,
Never healthy.
Kluber coming off an injury, Montgomery, Garcia, young guys,
okay.
Herman coming off a suspension. So I know someone like Clark Schmidt is another younger guy. All guys who aren't proven or are unhealthy over the past few years. So I really think they should bring in a guy, a veteran who is going to eat up innings. Is that someone like Odorizzi? I don't know his injury history but someone who consistently is going to throw 180 innings, I think they need to get back in there. Someone like Tanaka, I'm pretty sure he's pretty rarely unhealthy. I mean, he got hit in the head of his passing. That's why he missed a lot of time. But I think they need to do one more pitcher signing, and I would imagine the Yankees fans are probably saying the same thing. So
look out for trading for somebody like Pittsburgh's Joe Musgrove, because they've also talked about that, and I've heard his name a lot. He's in it. Kyle Hendricks is a name to think about, and also with the Yankees, they have Sanchez, but why wouldn't they trade for Wilson Contreras? They're not going to dish the money out for Real Muto, but Wilson Contreras and Kyle Hendricks as a package. I love these package deals. My brother would tell you that. I don't know. It's not out of the realm of the possibility. You fix two needs right there.
That's a great one. I think Kyle Hendricks is actually a perfect option. A guy who they can have for about 2 more years, and he wins and he eats up innings. He just can. He doesn't throw a lot of balls, so he's out there 6+ innings most of the time.
Brian Cashman, you should listen to the timeout. We're trying to help you out.
Go get him.
So, Derek, the last one is probably my favorite because this could solidify my Philadelphia Phillies getting JT Realmuto, because DJ LeMahieu just signed a 6-year, $90 million contract. So the Yankees aren't going to go sign another big fish, I don't think. But I'll tell you what really is interesting. The Blue Jays were in on him, and the Blue Jays must be pissed. They see Lindor go to New York. They see LeMahieu go to the Yankees. And now what do the Blue Jays do? They have this team that they're ready to win. And unless they sign Trevor Bauer, and I know they've been in on JT, but again, do they want to spend the money? The bottom line is back to LeMahieu. I wanted to throw those names out there, but back to LeMahieu. A good move by New York because they got their guy, but they gave him 6 years. He's 32 years old. I'm going to question that until the cows come home. It's going to be interesting to see what he's like at 37, 38 years old.
Yeah, that's gonna be tough towards the end of that contract, maybe. But Right now, if that's what
Great.
it took for them to lock him up, they apparently had no issue with that. So, and hey, he was one of the best hitters last year, one of the best hitters the previous year. So,
Batting champ.
back when we had Phil Angle on talking, and he was saying that they should be a top priority. I remember us talking about, who's more of a future for the Yankees, DJ LeMahieu or Aaron Judge. And I remember you saying that, and they said probably LeMahieu. So
There it
um,
is.
they locked him up, and they're just gonna that's a great move for them. Obviously, it would have been tough to lose one of the batting champions. So um, they're right back where they were pretty much in terms of offensively. We
Yeah.
did talk about, I think they need another pitcher, but um, good signing with LeMahieu. That leaves people like uh, and what are someone like the Blue Jays, what do they do? You've heard their names all over the place. They're talking to Bauer, they're talking to Springer. They want something, but it's in order to keep up with the Yankees and get up there with the Rays. So we'll see. We'll see. Um, so that'll do it for our hot stove updates. We're gonna try to do them every once in a while here until we really get going in the um, into the baseball preseason. But obviously, Darvish happened a couple of weeks ago. But we just thought we would cover everything that's happened over the past few weeks and also throw out a little top five list. But it's going to be a current top five list here as opposed to previous ones that have been kind of random information. So this top five list is going to be, and then with one of the guys who we talked about in Francisco Lindor. We'll see where both of us have him ranked. But top five current shortstops in Major League Baseball. Um, Joe, we have a little Excel spreadsheet here. So
Beautiful.
we're just going to uh, read off of this a little bit. And now, first off, I just showed you this a little bit beforehand. These are all guys who are on our list. So if you see people missing like Carlos Correa or Glaber Torres, guys like that who maybe should be on a top five list in your opinion, they just don't happen to be on our top five list. So these are all guys on our top five lists somewhere. Um, you can see obviously now this is over the 2019 and 2020 season combined, and you see that Fernando Tatis Jr. obviously was only one season this past year. That's why his numbers are so low. Uh, you see the games, plate appearances, home runs, RBI, stolen bases, walk percentage. That's walks per at bat. Strikeout percentage, the lower that is, the better. Average on base percentage. Now, defensive stats is something that I got off of Fangraphs, a very good website for baseball. If anyone wants to check that out, a lot of advanced stats on there for Major League Baseball. They kind of came up with a rankings based on runs saved by the player, their error rate, their fielding percentage, a bunch of numbers. So they gave rankings based on that. And then I threw in the gold gloves for how many gold gloves players have. Joe, you've had a little bit to look at it. Before we get into our top five lists, are there any numbers or players that really jump out at you? Obviously, I highlighted the top two in each category for amongst those shortstops.
One thing that did jump out at me was the percentage of strikeouts. And Simmons only has 9.60.
Mm.
That's pretty. He's actually a free agent currently, and a bunch of teams love his defense. And but look at, he doesn't strike out a lot, so that's also a really a key thing you don't think about. RBIs always stand out, and I would say at 145, it's Xander Bogarts, who is one of the best players that a lot of people don't even talk about. But he's really good. So I just think, anytime you talk about stats, things are going to stick out. But those are two things I caught my eye.
Yeah, it's not necessarily about the stats. There's a lot of team leadership and qualities like that don't show up on the stats. So just because they have big stats doesn't necessarily make them the top 5 shortstop in Major League Baseball. But Joe, do you want to start us off with your list, and then we'll talk about them at the end?
Sure. So number 8, I have currently a free agent, but he spent a lot of time in New York City, taking over for Derek Jeter. He played for the Phillies last year and had a pretty good season. In the 2 years that we have up here, he actually hit 26 home runs and knocked in 101 runs. He even had 5 stolen bases for a guy that's not super fast. I'm talking about Sir Didi Gregorius is my number.
And he's had a lot of injuries over the past 2 years, so that's why you'll see, his 140 games compared to everyone else. His numbers would be just right up there with everyone else if he played enough games. So
he still isn't bad with the plate appearances if you look at it. With Simmons, it's 551. And look at Gregorius at 581. So he actually got to the plate. I mean, he gets to the plate 3 or 4 times because he's had lineups that would get him to the plate. But he's a guy that's a steady Eddie, and he's gonna find a good home. And I hope for him a couple years. And got a sweet swing. I love watching Didi play. Number 7 is a guy we just mentioned, and he was a top 3 defensive shortstop. He was a former Braves prospect. A lot of people don't remember that, but he came up with some of the Braves teams. And that is Mr. Andrelton Simmons, who currently is a free agent, and somebody's going to take him. It looks like not a huge home run guy with 7 in the 2 years again, but he did knock in 50 runs, and it's just impressive to see that strikeout percentage. He has 4 Gold Gloves, too. That's nothing to sneeze about. Only 2 guys on our list. 4 Gold Gloves is nothing I mean, you got to be kidding me. That's playing some great defense. That's flashing the leather, as they say. Sure, he had web gems in Atlanta, as they did on a night back in the day. But yeah, and Jordan Simmons happens to be my number 7.
Yeah, two Gold Gloves in both leagues, 2 for the Braves, 2 for the Angels. And he's someone who can get on base or makes contact with the ball, I should say. He's not one who's going to strike out, which is in some situations a very good thing. So Simmons, another free agent who probably will find a team coming up here.
Number 6 isn't so underrated, but I just had him outside the top 5 because I just thought that he hasn't probably done it long enough. A couple of these other guys have done it in previous seasons and a little longer. He's not flashy, but this is the Nationals and Trey Turner. What a base stealer, I think, in our graphic here. If you look closely, he's got 47 of them. His average is an awesome 309. In this list, he might be the best one in the 2 years. He's a reason they won the World Series, and he's their catalyst. I love Trey Turner. I have a hard time rooting against him because I love the way he plays the game. But he's a pest. That's who he is. He's a pesty player, and he can also play pretty good defense, as I think it shows us. Well, maybe not so much. He's not as great as I thought he was. His on-base percentage, though, is high at 366. So Trey Turner, to me, stands out as one of the top shortstops in the game right now.
Sorry about that. Go ahead, Joe.
So number 5 is a guy we also talked about, and that is former World Series champion and raw power, pretty good defensively, and that's Red Sox own Xander Bogarts. Right away, I love that name, by the way, Xander. Just a great name. In 211 games, though, he almost went to the plate 1,000 times. It was 923 to be exact. In those 2 years, though, if you look at these 2 numbers, he scored 146 runs and he knocked in 145 guys. That's impressive. And for 307 average. So Xander Bogarts was, to me, one of the no-brainers. I just had a hard time putting him above 5, so I went with number 5 for Boston's own Xander Bogarts.
Those stats for a team that's really been struggling over the past 2 years too, and he's someone that they may even be deciding to build around. It seems like so.
Devers.
Yeah.
Rafael Devers.
Yes,
Left side of that
a great left side of that infield. That's for sure.
So number 4 is a guy I really enjoy watching when I can watch him, but he's on the West Coast, so we don't see a lot of him, and that is the Rocky shortstop Trevor Story. Good defensive player, really good average hitter. He's definitely got pop. He proved that in the 2 years again that we're looking at. Story, yeah, he had 46 home runs. That's about 20 a year in those years. He 38 stolen bases and knocked in 113. He's even a 1 in defensive stats, which is tremendous. Just a guy that, and playing with Nolan Arenado must be fun. He doesn't have to do a lot defensively because Arenado gets to everything. But Story is a talented player and a guy I'm pretty sure came up through the Rocky system, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and he's another player who I guess they're going to start to build around. Someone who came in just after Troy Tulowitzki, who was another amazing shortstop. They've had amazing shortstops in Colorado for at least 10 years now. So, Trevor Story is a great young player. Tons of home runs now. About Colorado. So, and they're mile up stadium air and stuff. So there's maybe some inflated numbers, but still great player.
The only thing that I can see that's a little off that might be a concern is his K percentage is at 25. Yeah. But other than that, I don't see a lot of holes in his game. And he needs to get out of Colorado because they're not going to win. So maybe, who knows? Maybe he's the one that gets traded before Arenado because everybody keeps saying Arenado's getting traded.
Talk about another great left side of the infield, Arenado and Trevor Story, and they just, unfortunately, there's not enough in every other place, including the pitchers, to get them anywhere.
Well, Derek, we're going to stay on the West Coast, and we're going to talk about another great side of the infield, the left side of the infield, of course. Shortstop Fernando Tatis, and this guy is going to be a star for many years. He was an awesome defender. He is a great bat. I said the next 7 to 8 years we'll be talking about him. And if you look at him for the first 2 years of his career, 17 home runs, 50 runs scored. His walk percentage is kind of impressive at 1050. You don't see that a lot. Maybe the defensive stats need to come down a little bit, but this guy is dynamic. He's exciting. Wow. If we're going to see the Mets and Padres in the next couple of years and just battling for the playoffs, I'd love to see the matchup between Tatis versus Lindor because that's what they're going to market it as. They're going to market it as like the NBA would, Kevin Durant versus, well, I can't say James Harden now, right? But whatever you want to say, you got superstars. So Tatis happens to be my number 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you mentioned it, and Machado also there, so. They're going to have a great duo for a long time with Machado and Tatis. Obviously, just the small sample size, but Tatis looked amazing, as you said.
Such a good hitter. Number 2 is a guy that personally I grew to like a lot more in the postseason this year. He does play for the defending champs, and he's one of the sweetest swingers. I think you know his brother quite well. This would be Corey Seeger of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Great postseason, hit some home runs. And if you look at the 2 years, he's been hurt too, though. He's a guy that I don't know if teams are going to go crazy for in the next off season because he's one of those guys in that shortstop class. But he had 34 home runs in 2 years.
Maybe not those 2 years, but he was injured, I know, in previous years.
Yeah, those numbers look pretty good, but the stats of defensively, if you want a defensive shortstop, you're not really going that way. But his on-base percentage pretty good. I love him just because he can turn around a fastball. He's got patience. It'll be interesting to see him in a different lineup, but right now he's in the Dodgers lineup, so it doesn't get much better than that. And we'll see who he's going to play with at third base. what kind of left side of the infield they're going to have this year because they're still another third baseman. So Corey Seeger is my number 2. Derek, drum roll, please.
Number 1.
Well, this shouldn't be a surprise, right? Number 1 is the guy that is now the New York Mets shortstop. He is the player that is going to be the most dynamic player on the field at all times. He is flashy. He's exciting. They say he's a great guy in the clubhouse. There's not much else to say about number 1, and that is Mr. Francisco Lindor. And Francisco Lindor, to me, is what you want of a baseball player. He stole almost 30 bases in those 2 years. He knocked in 101 runs. And he got to the plate 600 times. He's a leadoff hitter usually, or bat second at the most. But look at that K percentage, 1390. That's probably, if I'm looking, okay, third best. That's still amazing out of 13 guys. So I don't know. I had to put him at number 1. Not much else to say about him.
Well, so I don't know where time's at, but we'll go to the top 5 list for me here. Kind of similar names. I just had 7. I had 2 honorable mentions here. Both were mentioned by Joe. First one is Trey Turner. I believe he was in your honorable mentions. Fast as all hell. And a great hits for a great average. He does need some help defensively. They've talked about, I know they moved him out to center field a little bit, so whether or not he's going to stay at shortstop may not be the case, but
the second.
Yeah, he could end up playing at second. I know he wants to play shortstop, but
yeah, right.
My other honorable mention, strictly because of the sample size, and he's only going to move up. I have Fernando Tatis Jr. as my last honorable mention. He's going to move up. He's a great baseball player, but I just thought he'll get up there, but maybe not just yet. He might not be in the top 5. Number 5, actually, I don't even know if he was on your list, Joe, but Javi Baez is who I added. Hits great. He's actually one of the few on this list who has a Gold Glove. Seems to be like he's going to be the one that the Cubs build around. I mean, he's probably like 26, 27. There's not much else that's going to be there except for Javi Baez probably. But that K rate always scares you. In fact, I think he was like 30-some% this year, which is very high. Yeah, he just tries to bomb the ball every time. Whether that's a good thing or not, I don't know. But I think he's one who may actually be dropping down in the next few years. But for now, I still have Javi Baez as number 5. Another name who wasn't on your list, someone who actually finished in the top, I think the top 3 and made in MVP rates in the AL in 2019. That's Marcus Simeon. Has been a great player for the Oakland A's over the past few years. Currently a free agent. Whoever gets him is going to get. I mean, he doesn't really run too much, but a lot of power for the shortstop position. 40 home runs. You see a ton of the plate appearances. That's because he leads off and he's played the most games in the past 2 years. So someone who's consistently going to be out there every day. And someone who gets on base, you see that 11.4 walk percentage, the highest amongst all the players. Marcus Simeon seems to be someone who's on his way up and is playing his best baseball right now. So I'd be interested to see where he goes moving forward, whether or not he re-signs with the A's. The last 3 were all said by you. Number 3 I have is Trevor Story. You said it, but we'll see where he goes. Number 1 in defensive stats, and then he's number 1 in a lot of other ones, including runs and second stolen bases, 46 home runs. Big bat out there in Colorado. So we'll see if he in fact stays in Colorado or he moves out. Number 2 I had was Xander Bogarts. I noticed it when I'm highlighting all these stats. You see he's number 2 or the top 2 in mostly all of them. So he can put bat on ball and get on base, hit for average. Defensively not the best, so he's another one who might end up being moved eventually, but probably someone they're building around there in Boston and somewhere who's not going to go anywhere anytime soon. But I have to agree with you for number 1. I also have Francisco Lindor, and it's not all about the offensive categories, because you see he's not in the top 2 in any of them. He does have 2 gold gloves, but he's consistent. He's always out there. Great defensively, and then he's been able to hit, and especially with not a ton in that. I mean, Ramirez is in that lineup as well. But Jose Ramirez, who may be another guy who's going to be moved, but Francisco Lindor, I think the Mets may have gotten the best shortstop in the game. Another couple names just to look out for maybe in the couple coming years: Tim Anderson from the White Sox, pretty much going to be a 2020, being 20 home runs, 20 stolen bases consistently going forward. And Bo Bichette for the Toronto Blue Jays. He was someone who really started up last year, and a young guy who could make this list in coming years, but for now didn't quite make either of our lists. Joe, you want to run through your honorable mentions and top 5 for current shortstops in Major League Baseball?
Sure. The other one name I just did think of, though, that you brought up about coming years. What about Dansby Swanson? If he has the protection in the lineup, because he's had a couple good seasons, and if Freeman continues to do what he does, and that break, and who they probably sign a free agent over the next couple of years. So yeah, watch for Dansby Swanson. He can hit the ball a little bit. Mm-hmm. So he's another one. All right, number 8, I have Didi Gregorius, free agent. Number 7, Andrelton Simmons, another free agent. Number 6, I have Trey Turner of the Washington Nationals. Number 5, I have Xander Bogarts of the Boston Red Sox. Number 4, Trevor Story of the Colorado Rockies. Number 3, Fernando Tatis of the San Diego Padres. Number 2, Corey Seeger of the Los Angeles Dodgers, the defending World Series champs. And number 1, Francisco Lindor of the New York Mets.
And mine was honorable mention Trey Turner for Washington. Honorable mention Fernando Tatis Jr., San Diego. Number 5, Chicago, Javi Baez. Number 4, Marcus Simeon, Oakland, free agent. Number 3, Trevor Story in Colorado. Number 2, Xander Bogarts in Boston. And number 1, Francisco Lindor for the New York Mets. You may have noticed I left out Corey Seager. He did have a great postseason, but let's see it in the regular season to get up with the rest of them for me. But
fair.
And then he's not the best defensively. But well, that'll do it, Joe. That'll do it for our hot stove talk. And I don't know how long we went for. It might have been a little too long, but that's all right. And top 5 current shortstops in Major League Baseball. Last thoughts, Joe?
No, it was another good show. I'll be looking forward, as we said, I think pitchers and catchers are important at the beginning of February to spring training. We know what the NFL playoffs will be coming on a show on Monday to talk a little more about playoffs, and a special guest for the first time, an interview with somebody that you'll have to tune in to find out who that is. We'll be still covering the NFL the next couple of weeks, and then Major League Baseball is going to come into full focus with some college basketball here and there. But yeah, more hot stove, and then spring training comes, and we're going to talk about more rosters and all kinds of stuff. So me and Derek will be thrilled to do that, and we just hope our listeners keep on listening, because we need you as much as you need us.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about over the next few weeks, so we won't have any shortage of topics. So, but as always, thank you very much for watching. If you heard my spiel last time, just a quickie version is, we're on YouTube. Go follow us and subscribe to the channel. That way you can get all of the videos as soon as they come up. All podcast platforms were available: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. We're on it. As well as send us an email. Let us know, comment, let us know your top 5 shortstops in Major League Baseball, or just who you think is the best shortstop in Major League Baseball. But as always, thank you very much for taking time out of your day to spend some time with us here at Timeout. Stay safe. Take care.